1 second. The lovely assistant will come along and we'll press the screen just to make it on me. Something like that. A bit lower. There we go. It's not done it, but there we go. Anyway, good evening. Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. We're in a different venue. We're in my sort of target room, and I'm going to try and make my camera do what it's supposed to do, which it doesn't seem to want to do. But there we go. These are the trials of life, aren't they? So, hopefully everything's going to work a little bit more smoothly tonight, and you're going to get your questions coming into me, and I'll be able to see everything that's going on. So, the first question, hopefully, will be an interesting one, and it'll keep us going for a little while. Otherwise, I've got various bits of paraphernalia around me to talk about and discuss and say blah 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 about. Limbo, if you would just delightfully come back along and just press the screen, please, somewhere where that very bright shiny spot is. Maybe try the bear's leg. Right, not to worry. See if you can get rid of that big menu that's across it. Isn't it great having a studio assistant for a change?
It doesn't
She's
work.
much better looking than Dave as well. No, we've clearly messed something up there. Right, anyway, have we got any questions yet, please? It would be very nice to hear from you. We've got a few people here. They've got the Real 602, good evening. Good evening to you too. Iman, good evening to you. Hopefully these are going to pop up. Is anything popping up? Have we got anybody asking any questions tonight? It doesn't seem like we have. Oh well, it'll be an easy evening. Oh, we had one pop up there. Why are these questions not popping up on here? Evening Chris, right, where is the best place to sell a rifle? Sean, yes, thank you for coming. You sent me this message a couple of days ago and I said to pop along tonight. In the UK, either take it to your gun shop, get them to sell it on a commission sale for you, or go on to Gun Trader, because it's a very good website and you can log all your details in it. It's safe, secure, no messing around, doesn't blurb your address or anything like that. And I would say usual sellers, caveat supply, make sure you, it's a bit awkward in the world at the moment, but don't, go giving your address out to people until they've given you some proof of their identification and their seriousness about buying the rifle. I would personally not give anybody my address without a firearm certificate or a personal reference to someone I know, but that's your choice. So that will be my recommendation. Right, just do it in one go. On YouTube, it'll be right in front of you somewhere. It didn't go particularly well for me. Next one, evening, T1X, is it worth getting an MDT chassis? Well, I suppose it depends which MDT chassis you like, because there are a lot of different MDT chassis designs. Let me just think. A few weeks ago I had the ACC design, I had that on a Howard centerfire. Very appropriate for the sort of precision rifle things, lots of adjustability, and you can customise it to do what you want. Plenty of place to put weights, you've got a full load of M-lock rail, things like that on it. It's a nice thing if that's what you like. Alternatively, again, look on the channel. There's I haven't done the full video on it yet, but I've got the Mauser M18 long range. That's also an MDT stock. That's in the Oryx. I personally prefer the Oryx because I'm more inclined to do a bit more of the sort of long range specific and prone shooting rather than multi-position shooting. But if you like running MDT chassis, they are well made bits of kit. So pair that up with your Tikka T1X. I don't think you'll be too unhappy with that. Next one, Edward Sheridan, Seiko or Tikka. Tried to get a Tikka tonight, but the Indian takeaway was closed, so we got pizza instead. And apparently they don't like it when I say Seiko, they want me to say Sarko. So considering I've been to the factory in Finland, I probably should say that more correctly. And I think, what's next? So yeah, Edward, be a little bit more specific as to which you want, because frankly, I've been to the factory, they're all made on the same machine, same barrels, the lot, different action. Personally, I prefer the Tikka T3 action to the Seiko 85. And I think the S20 is kind of a bit confused in a way, because you've lost the advantage of the double stack mag, and you've also not got the sort of low price or lower, more economical price of the T3X. But they're all good rifles, just personal preference, isn't it? Right, Boyhead. Hi Chris, what's your opinion on Element Optics? Seems to have good reviews, but quite new on the market. I had one. I'm just trying to think. I need to remember which Element Optics is. Element Optics. Those are the ones I had from Sportsman Gun Centre on the FX air rifles. They're quite nice. They are not particularly particularly anything groundbreaking versus the competition, but you do get what you pay for, and they, you know, what they advertise they will do, they certainly do. Image quality is probably a touch better than average at that price point. Turret clicks tracked well too. I did quite a lot of sort of, well, I say long range, what's long range to who, but on the FX air rifle I had a couple of months ago, I did all sorts of, you know, local travel on the scope. That was the Element Optics. I think it was a Nexus. Again, it'll say on the side of the scope. I made a vow this morning that I will never ever, well, I was woken up by the morning chorus of all the birds at 3:30 this morning, and I just lay there thinking, when did a squirrel ever wake me up? Never. Therefore, I've made a decision about squirrels. Right. Cheers, Chris. Have a Bagara 14 HMR. So you see, I like the HMR in 6.5 Creamer or the 308. Just the rimfire one just didn't work well. I don't like it, and I just don't think it gives positive ignition, and the one I had was very unreliable. It's on the video. One Bagara rimfire. Next question. Right. Right. Sam Miller. What do you think of the Hick Vision Lynx Pro 19? Do you know, I still haven't reviewed this yet because I'm in a different room. It's not in a bag next to me. I really like it. It's so small, it's handheld. You can just put it in your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons. They just lay under your fingers. And do you know what? You walk around with it and you don't realise you're still holding it because it's so small, so compact, so light. It just sort of sits in your hand. You don't need it on a lanyard, you don't need anything. I mean, I put the wrist strap on just for the, you know, better safe than sorry, but I've found it incredibly good. Okay, it's not got the biggest lens, it's not got the most sensitivity, it's not got the greatest long range potential, but it's a bit like saying what's the best gun, and the best gun is the one you're carrying. It's a bit like that with the Hick 19. I really like it. It'll be going back in a few weeks' time, and I have to say I'm going to miss it very badly. Hopefully this week is deadline week and I'll get all my written stuff done because I need to get some videos edited and published next week. So look forward to those. I've got Mauser M18 long range video, I've got the Ruger Precision Rifle 338 Lapua Magnum to produce, and I've also got the Hick video, I've got a Zeiss V4 video. There's just loads of videos for me to do. I have got the major footage for the big guns though. I was down in Wales last week because I needed some. I needed a big place to play with those. Certainly the 338. Right. Hi Chris, is it worth putting a 20 MOA rail on a 17 HMR? That's a really good question because, funnily enough, I can't touch guns on YouTube Live because it will take me down. So I'm told, but I'm not going to attempt it. Now, funnily enough, not 30 seconds before this went live, I had a bit of an epiphany and I thought, I've swapped the scope on this rifle. I did a review on it a couple of months ago and it had a Schmidt & Bender PM2 on it. For various reasons, I was swapping some scopes around. I had to use the PM2 on the 338 actually. And I remembered, this is actually my Minox ZP5. This is a 3 to 15 by 50. It's actually one of my scopes. I've not had it on anything for a couple of years actually. It was sat in its rings. I put it on the rifle and I took it out yesterday to have a bit of a plink with it. Because I'm doing a bit of a thing of long range rimfire, so I've got, you know, very custom, not very custom, but the very new CZ457 versus my old CZ452. I'll tell you more about those later if you want to ask them. But that's got a 25 MOA Picatinny rail, comes with the LRP rifle. And I thought, all right, I've got 13.5 milliradians on that turret. It's going to get me out, you know, far enough. And literally 30 seconds before this video started, I'm having a bit of a twiddle with it, and I suddenly remember, yeah, the Minox, they go to like they have like a sort of a more solid click that goes clunk through from turn 1 to turn 2. Clunk through I go, 28.6 milliradians on that, and I was just working it out on my phone just before the video went live, and I think it's going to take me to 485 meters. That is going to be awesome, and Before, when I did the main video, I think I capped out at about 330, 340 metres with the 2.2 Rimfire. That's going to take me way further now, so I'm really looking forward to that. Like I said, that's literally almost live on camera. As for putting one on the 17 HMR, do you need one? Because I've actually shot that with a 17 HMR barrel on it. I happen to have one, and it's very nice. It shoots very well, and the gun is exactly as it is. But it was on a windy day, and you know what? I had a much better result shooting the 2.2 LR than the 17 HMR, which just, the bullet just seems to evaporate in the wind compared to the 2.2 LR, which isn't in itself awesome. But there we go. So if you need one, put one on. I think Picatinny rail's the easiest way of mounting scopes, full stop. But make sure it's Picatinny, not a Weaver, because Weaver's a bit of a halfway step somehow. Right. I don't think you're going to need 20 MOA for 17 HMR, but so it depends on your needs and requirements. You do need to be a little bit careful that you can get some scopes to 0 on a 20 MOA rail. If that's the case, you'll need to look at using a 10 MOA rail. But usually they will, and certainly some of the night vision stuff, it can be quite helpful to put at least a 10 on it. Right, evening first, 2.2 LR, shall I get the CZ457 LRP or the T-Bolt? I've never bought a gun as a reviewer in 10 years, till January. I paid the bill on that one, can't let it go, I love it. And I've got a 452. Funny enough, I was out shooting both yesterday and I shot better groups, the 452. Just happened to be that I caught the wind with that one and didn't with that one. But yeah, the T-bolts are good, but they're very short length of pull. I think I've had a few of them actually. I did an article today actually. I was looking at some pictures of various Rimfires, and I urged to look through those, but there's a bit of an issue with those because they're such small, compact, handy guns, which is great. The problem is they've got short length of pull, and of course you're pushing the bolt forward to lock it, you know, lock the cross bolt in as it goes into battery, as the case goes into battery. And the problem is the guns, you know, I think it was like 13.5 or maybe even less inches length of pull, and it's kind of, you know, you're just crowding it and you're right into the scope, and everybody wants to sell 100mm Magnum scopes these days, and you don't want one at all because you get very small eye box, you get you know, if you don't need that much eye relief, don't get one because they're physically too big, especially for rimfires, if you haven't got plenty of mounting space. So no, I think I'd have to err against the T-bolt. Were the stock on the T-bolt a bit bigger, I do quite like them. They certainly shoot well, but you have to remember that on a bolt action, you are sliding that bolt forward with just the case on top of the magazine sliding into the chamber. That's your only forward force, then the bolt goes down to lock. Whereas on the T-bolt, it slides forward to move that case, and then it toggles clunk to lock the bolt. So that is pushing the gun away from your shoulder. As a completely dynamic use gun, when you've got the gun held in with your left hand and you're operating with the right hand, it doesn't really matter so much. Which is great for a hunting rifle. It doesn't really matter because it is a fast action in that situation. But if you're more of a precision prone shooter, I don't tend to prefer that action because you've generally got one hand underneath into your shoulder, the other hand on the gun, and you're pushing that, and it's moving the gun out of battery. So unless you've got good length of pull, loading the bipod, and you've got something to, you know, like a hook on the butt to keep it locked in, it does tend to move a little bit. So right, next, the other thing about the CZ457 is you can change barrels on them. So you've got a few different cartridges capabilities there. Right, hi Chris, just been granted an FAC and I've put in 308 for deer stalking. I'm thinking of getting Mauser M18. What do you think? Cheers, Rob. Mauser M18, nobody likes me for this, but I really like them. I think it's a vastly undersold gun. I've had one in 243 ever since they came out, and it is just a really good rifle. The price of them went crazy low, and I think that people began to undervalue them because of that. Okay, they're not flash, but they've got, and I will say this, they have got my favourite turn bolt action on a centerfire rifle. And I would say I've just got the M18 long range now as well, which has actually got a longer bolt handle, and I think I still like it, but it's not as good as the standard one with the Sporter. I've shot a lot of foxes with that rifle, shot a few deer with it, and I just can't really fault it. And one thing I will say about it is I don't think I've ever had a gun that cheap that you could bring in at night take it in the house, freezing cold, moisture, you know, condensation everywhere, wet through. Give it a quick wipe off. Following morning, you bring it out, give it a proper clean. Not a speckle, not an orange dot anywhere. And I've got plenty of guns that, you know, touch it in warm weather with a dry finger, and I don't have sweaty hands. That's got orange speckles in the morning. So I'll say that about the Mauser. It's just a vastly undersold rifle. There we go. People say, oh, is it accurate? And I'll say, yes, it shoots as well as it needs to shoot. It'll certainly do sub MOA 3-round groups, no problem. And usually in the it's 243, 80 grain copper as well, but you know, a bit more tricky, shoots them fine too. Right, who's next here? This is working a little bit better than I thought it would. Herbert, we've got looking forward for the M18 video. So am I. I went, I shot it, and I had 2 days in Wales. The weather was actually very, very good. The first day I spent shooting the M18, I think I just went to 850 metres just because I was a little bit low on ammo, and it was shooting great at that, so I didn't really feel the need to go any further. The cartridge is capable of it, just didn't happen. The following day, I went to a different spot. This is at WMS Firearms in Wales. I went to a different spot and I shot from the top of the hill. It's 1,000 metres with the 338, and to be honest, I can shoot the Creedmoor more locally around home. The point of the trip was to shoot the 338 because if I light that one off in my village or anywhere near around the farms, 3 villages further on are going to be wringing their ears out. But I had a really good trip actually, and I have to say, I'm not the biggest 338 fan. It's a great cartridge. I like shooting them, but they can be a bit brutal for what you need. The one I had, the Ruger Precision Rifle, I actually quite liked it. And of all the Ruger Precision Rifles I've had, it was probably the one I liked the most. I've had the Rimfires, the Centerfires, 6.5s, I've had 308s, I've had a 243 Fast Twist, and I kind of liked it the most because it kind of fit into its own suit of clothes. It was just right somehow. Long wheelbase, as you could call it, between the bipod and the back end of the butt. It was really stable to aim. And of course, my big thing with 338s, this one came with a brake on it. So for testing and review reasons, I had to leave it as it was supplied. Normally, I would always put a moderator on any rifle. I specifically don't like brakes, and 338's about as big as I want to shoot without anything on it. But came with a brake on it, Lashley Porter brake, and do you know what? It was actually quite good. Not a great amount of blowback on it. It wasn't kicking up a load of dust on the gravelled quarry floors. I only had 40 rounds of ammunition, and I thought, oh, is that going to be enough? And actually, I was surprised that I would have carried on shooting it more. I shot some very fast strings at 1,000 metres, and it was just a smooth gun to shoot, actually. And you know, I'm a bit critical of the way that, you know, you've spent a lot of time setting up your position to shoot shots like that. And often you've got to make fast corrections for the wind. You need to be aiming off 1/2 mil here, 1/4 mil there, bit high, bit low, whatever's going on. And you've got to react quickly. So you want to be able to see your own fall of shot and trace of the bullet fly. And you don't want to be heaving and hauling the gun around, you know, with a bolt, this, that, and the other, trying to make it reload while you concentrate on everything else. And I have to say, the Ruger was just super smooth. It didn't, you know, okay, there's recoil, and it gives you a bit of a pulse, and it, you know, loses the target slightly, but nothing like as bad as some 338s I've had. And most importantly, you can cycle that action, and you're ready to put the next shot down while you're watching the first one land. It's cool stuff. I liked it. Right, Stephen Littler. I've not heard from you for at least 30 minutes, Stephen. Right, I'm thinking of buying the Swarovski Z8 with BT. It's going to be predominantly used for deer stalking, occasional target shooting. Any other suggestions I could consider? Cheers. Right, in that sort of price bracket, you've got Schmidt & Bender, you've got Carles. Carles is slightly more sort of in the tactical market at that sort of specification level, but I do like them. It's not quite the sporting look and feel of the Swarovski, and you'll be jumping up to 34mm tube, but to be honest, why not? Because your objective and ocular aren't getting any bigger, so it's only, you know, a gap of air anyway, and, you know, 100 grams in weight. Zeiss, you know, you've got the Zeiss HT, which is superb for the hunting element of it. If you're looking more for the dialing capability for for shooting intermediate to middle-ish long range, say 600, 800 meters, depending on how much adjustment you need, what cartridge you're shooting, etc. The V8's a great scope, but it's still not a target scope. It's like the Swarovski X5. It's kind of not a hunting scope and kind of not a target scope. The V8 similarly, I would say the V8 is probably one of the ultimate long-range hunting scopes. But if you really want to move into the premier level of great optics and that sort of capability, the Schmidt & Benders, the things like the Exos are very good and still quite compact actually. But you know, where's the dominance of it going to lay? If your dominance is more towards the hunting element, perhaps the Swarovski and the Zeiss. If your dominance is more towards the target, tactical, long range kind of things, you know, the Schmidt, the Carles, or similar things to that. It's difficult for me to say which one I'd go for, really. They all perform well. I have probably personal favourites among them, just because they suit me. I do like the Schmidt & Bender Exos. I really do. The only problem I've ever had with that is that there's an absolutely tiny Allen key used for adjusting the turret, and I lost it. So the 0.8mm Allen key, and amongst the 1,000 Allen keys I must have, I didn't have another one. Anyway, they sent me another one from Germany, so it was fine. So yeah, I must admit, I think I'd go for the Exos over the Swarovski because I just like the turrets. I like the bomb-proof nature of Schmidt & Bender mechanics. They do seem to really take a battering. And I've been fortunate to have quite a few of them on long-term test, and I've owned quite a lot of them as well. When I first got my RFD and a trade account, the first thing I bought was 3 Schmidt & Bender PM2s, all the 12.5 to 50s. My mate still got his. I didn't keep mine super long because I wasn't actually, I ended up just not using it. Right, hi Chris, just got my variation for 223. What twist rate and grain weight ammo would you recommend as a reliable and accurate combination? For what, Andrew Harris? Personally, I've had a 223 built for myself. It's a 223 Wild, but the difference is not massively important. I went for an 8-inch twist barrel because it means I can shoot 69 and 77 grain bullets with no problem at all, or I can shoot the lighter 40s, 40 and 50s and 55s, no problem at all. It's a good barrel though. But if you go out on a windy day and you're doing some plate shooting, it's like 400-600 meters, and you shoot 55s and you shoot 69s or 77s, you will really notice the difference in how they'll hold better in the wind. And the drops, the difference in the drops, especially the longer ranges in that bracket, you don't really bother too much with it because it's very easy to find out the right distance and work out drops. It's not as easy to fight the wind. But for a general hunting rifle, for foxes, rabbits, that kind of thing, 55s are absolutely fine because 300 meters, especially at night, is a long shot. So I've done a lot with the SAU 100 Keeper, which is another rifle I like quite a lot. That's just a standard. I think, do you know, is that a 10-inch twist or a 12? I've got a funny feeling it might be a 10-inch twist, but a 10 or a 12, you know, they're great. 10's kind of neither here nor there. Most of them are either 12s or faster. I mean, Seiko used to do the 12s and the 8s, but I think the 8s were a bit short supply. The 8s were a great choice if you could get one though. I'd always go for an 8 personally. There's nothing it can't do, whereas the 12 does have limits. Right, Boyhead, if you could choose a perfect day's shooting, where and what would it be? Same as I had back in my... this is a question I've been asked a few times over the years. Sorry to spoil everybody's thing, but 3D archery, rubber deer. These are three. Well, those aren't 3D archery targets; those are field archery targets. But yeah, that's what I do. I've shot for longer than I've done archery, but archery was the kind of the love of my shooting and competitive performance life. So 3D archery, rubber deer, compound bow. I'm happy. I'm happy, mainly because I had to retire from it for medical reasons and I miss it badly. Right, when storing your firearms, do you use snap caps or remove the bolt, etc.? I don't use snap caps. It depends how long I'm storing them for. I'll take the bolt out. If I'm, if I put them away wet or put them away damp or cold or anything like that, we're going to get condensation. I'll give them quite a good clean over. But if they're going away dry and they've not had any problems with them, or mucky fingerprints, that kind of stuff, I'll put them away dry, and I'll generally leave them away dry. If they've been stored for more than a week or two in that state, or I'm not going to be using them, I will give them a proper clean and leave them with an oily bore. I always take the bolts out, and one thing I would say is shotguns, I always put them in barrel down. I think it used to matter more than it does now, but they always used to say that the oils and fluids and residues would drain down under gravity. And of course, if your gun's barrel up and you've got a nice old English side-by-side shotgun, that eventually works its way through the firing pin holes and it can soften the wrist of the stock. My dad's shotgun, which I still own, I had to have a new stock because it eventually cracked, but it is about 80 years old. And it may have been for that reason. So I don't know, it's just one of those things I've always done. But with the rifle, no, bolt out and let the air go through it. And yeah, it just depends when I think I'm going to be using it, and if it's been put way back. Right. Oh, we're doing quite well tonight. Hi Chris, I use my Pulsar Helion on red monochrome to limit eye fatigue. I've never used the Accolade, but do you still get eye fatigue, and is it worth the extra over the Helion? Mixed thoughts on this one. Mixed thoughts. You will probably get less eye strain with the Accolade because you've no visual imbalance. I'm particularly sensitive to visual imbalance, so I always prefer the Accolade over the Helion. I never liked the Helion's layout in terms of button assembly and the boxy square tube and that kind of thing, and the sort of handed eyepiece that you had to swap over to go to the other hand, or the grips on the other side, this, that and the other. The Accolade is one of the finer tools in life, don't get me wrong. I've had the 38s, the 50s, the version 1, version 2, whatever, and they are very, very nice. I never experienced eye strain with them, and when I moved back to using monoculars for various reasons, I started very deliberately always swapping eyes just to balance out the strain. I could talk to you chapter and verse about the chemistry as well as the physical changes in the eye to do with night vision capability, but I'm not going to because I've done it before and it takes forever. But Google things like rhodopsin, all these kind of things that regenerate through your liver. It's all part of your body's biochemistry, and although your pupil opens and closes in fractions of a second, all that sensitivity of the chemistry in your eye does degrade. Every fraction of a second you're looking at bright lights. That's why when you wake up in the middle of the night, you've been asleep, doesn't matter what you do, those first few moments everything looks incredibly bright, even though your pupils shut right down, because your eyes are super sensitive. It takes hours for that to reach full sensitivity. It takes seconds to lose that full sensitivity. And although it does regenerate, that's down to your body's sort of biochemistry and the speed at which your metabolism and things like that are working. It all goes through your liver, I think. So yes, I was never medically particularly astute, but I've read a bit about it. Right. Edward Sheridan. Hi Chris, why ask Seiko ticker? Bought a ticker T2X and 6.5 Creedmoor, 20 inch, put 20 rounds through it. Try the other day, had to force the bolt forward and lock down the same ammo. Any thoughts? If you're having to force the bolt forward, you might have case growth head spacing problems. You might have got carbon rings in it. You might have got muck in it. Could be just dirty. Are you hand loading? Is it factory ammo? There are many, many factors. You've been asking me about this for weeks. There's probably nothing intrinsically wrong with the rifle. There's probably something going on that maybe you're doing or the ammunition's got a problem with. I would get it inspected by your gun shop or something like that, because it's not the kind of thing I can do on a live YouTube video to diagnose the exact fault. But generally, if you've got to push that bolt hard to make it go down, make the handle go down, you've got headspace issues for some reason. And we're only talking thousandths of an inch. Right, Henry Morgan, I'm looking to buy my first rifle hunting, Mauser M18 versus M12, thoughts? You won't go wrong with either. If I was saying M18, you just won't go wrong. If I was saying M12, I would go extreme over impact. I don't like the long bolt handles, I don't like short barrels, but I do like the extreme, which I used to think had the fastest, slickest bolt there was, but when I got the M18, I actually think that one's a bit quicker. Geometry of them both is the same, both 60-degree lift, but the M18's a 3-lug, whereas the M12's a 6-lug. Accuracy wise, you've so many other things involved in a which shoots the better group. They've both got the same stock geometry pretty much. The M12's got a slightly nicer trigger. They both use the same magazine system. The M12, I kind of prefer the wing safety a little bit, because you know when you lock that wing safety back on the M12, it locks the firing pin. It's not a trigger block like the M18 and lots of other rifles are. If you can afford the difference, go for the M12. It's not significantly more, but I don't necessarily think you're getting an intrinsically more accurate rifle. You're getting a very similar rifle, but it's just got the slightly more deluxe, just slightly. But that's not. I've probably used the M18 an awful lot more, and I've had the M12 an awful lot longer. But it's just, you know, in terms of what it's been great for is the fact that the M18's in a 243, which makes it a great foxing rig, whereas my M12's a 6555, which has been used more for deer stalking, etc. Used it a few weeks ago actually. I took some road deer with it, and yeah, great stuff. I actually missed one. There you go, I missed one. Clean miss. No idea why. Just don't know. Shot felt fine. Completely just walked away on me. Wasn't even far. It was about 75, 85 metres, something like that. There we go. That's life, eh? If I'd have been using a Creedmoor, of course I would have hit it. Right, where do we get to now? Hi Chris, looking for right, hi Chris, looking for a rangefinder hunting for around £200. Hawk or Vortex or others? Hawks and Vortex are alright in that category. There's not a huge amount to choose between them, to be honest. I've used both, I've reviewed both. I wouldn't say there was a huge performance difference between either, because let's face it, at that price point they're probably all made in similar factories and they're all using similar kit and similar specifications. So there was no fundamentally huge difference, and they're just sort of, I wouldn't say they're not the kind of products that leave a kind of lasting impression. The one thing I would say about monocular rangefinders is look for the ones that don't have a yellowy tinge to the image, because if you have one with a yellowy tinge, you'll have it forever. There's a Hawk one down there actually, the other side of that wall in a box. I'm not going to go and get it out because I'll have to dig through it all and be away for 2 minutes, but there we go. I don't think you'll go particularly far wrong with either, so that's that. I would say if you can maybe stretch your teeny bit more, some of the Sig Sauer ones do seem to punch a little bit harder for their weight, let's say. But you're still not into like Leica territory and things like that. Okie dokie. Leslie Wood's best rifle for foxes. How long's a piece of string? How urban are you? How noisy do you want to be? How quiet do you want to be? Do you want to be silent? Are you in people's windows shooting them in back gardens in central cities? Are you in the middle of nowhere? It's entirely up to you. If I had what have I shot most with? I've shot foxes with 22 250, 65 55, 223, 22. I've dispatched with a 17 HMR and I've shot with a 243. I've probably shot the most with a 223 or a 243, which probably most popular cartridges for it. I can't really say I've had a huge problem with either. The only thing I would say is that at night in the dark, if you've got to fumble for additional rounds, loading magazines, things like that, the 243 with a larger case is slightly less fiddly. Especially if you've got a hand chamber one, if you know, quick emergency backup shot, something like that. There's also the fact that, daft as it is, the 243 ones don't fall as easily out of the little elasticated loops on my stock. But other than that, I don't think I'd mind of either of them, because they're both effective. Okay, the 243 might hit a little bit harder, and you can, if you're in a wind, somewhere where you got a lot of weather problems, with a lot of wind conditions, the 75s in a 243 they're just that little bit step into the fantastic region of, I wouldn't say fire and forget, but they do hold better in the wind. And of course, if you really want to go laser beam, go down to the 58s in a 243, but I don't think it's particularly nice to shoot. and it can get very, very noisy. It's a little bit hard on barrels too. So yeah, 75s in the 243, 55s in the 223. I've shot plenty with 77s in the 223 wild, so I used to shoot a lot with the 22 250. Again, you've got the slightly bigger case with that one, so you're sort of halfway between the 22 and 223 and the 243 in that respect. But there's so many little elements to it, None of them are intrinsically any better because they've all got slight drawbacks. The 243 is quite noisy compared to a 223. Actually, I used to shoot 222 as well. That 222 might have become the gun that my 223 is now, I can't remember. The 222 is just that little bit more delicate. I don't think it's massively less effective than a 223, which is very, very close size to. And there's plenty of people who don't go beyond 150 metres that are very happy with 2.2 Hornets. I've never done a great deal with a 2.2 Hornet, but I can see the pleasure in that, because going from the 2.43 to the 2.23, I do enjoy that little bit less boom which is echoing round, you know, the village at night, whatever. So there we go. Right, Thomas Sether. Right, hi Chris. Have you tried the Strauss RS40, and if so, what do you think of it compared to the Blaser R8 and Sauer 404? I have had an RS40, I think I certainly had an RS something Strauss, so I've had a couple of them. Well, the Sauer 404, the Blaser group is also owns Sauer as well. The Sauer 404 is a kind of turnbolt option wanting to be similar to the R8. The R8 is, and I'm not personally a huge R8 lover, I respect them massively, because they are just good. I just don't kind of quite like them. But it's such a good rifle, it's very hard to knock it, beat it, or compare to it. The 404 wants to be a Blaser R8, but I don't think it is, sorry. The one thing on the Blaser which is just unbelievable, again, look at my channel. I had the 2.2 Rimfire set up on the R8 last year, and I did loads of shooting with that, and I did loads of barrel swap testing and scope change and all that kind of thing. Those things hold zero in a different league. They just don't seem to move. It's quite uncanny, and you know, I can't knock them. I could not really say. The only thing I could say I don't like about Blaser R8 is on the long action ones, which is the same thing, just the bolt travel. I've got a big nose, I can crack myself in the face a bit, and I have had one of the R8s in the GRS stock where you're on the cheek piece, and where your sort of cheek nibbles in the front, the bolt comes back, and it gives you a lovely scar. I just hit myself doing it actually. So yeah, that's that. The 404 I have no enormous love for in any respect. The RS14 is just a very different rifle. You've got I think that's the one with the hydraulic locking mechanism on the barrel change, isn't it? It's very, very beautifully made, quite heavy, and of course it doesn't have that huge range of accessories. I was saying to somebody yesterday morning, the Blaser catalogue is like an old school Yellow Pages. It is a thick tome, to say the least. And you know, it's a huge basis upon which to build a whole range of firearms, or to choose the exact firearm you want from completely factory specification kit. So they all have pros and cons, but yeah, I don't love the R8, but it's a great gun. Right, what are your thoughts on the 6XC cartridge? Have you tried it? I've never shot one actually. Thomas Howland's your guy to ask about the 6XC. He's always using them. 6mm is a nice cartridge to shoot in a modest case, especially with the faster twist barrels that will handle the heavier bullets. I've got a few people I know and respect well that have used them, but they've not necessarily carried on with them forever. I think it's probably got a lot going for it, just not something I've used. It's very close to things like the 6 Dasher, I think, isn't it? Which is a bit bigger than a BR. But I think it's I think it's probably quite well volumetrically balanced in terms of the initial cartridge capacity versus the burn volume of the barrel, which is usually a good sign. I mean, that's one of the reasons that the 6 PPC, the 308, the 6 BR are such well balanced cartridges, 222 rem, because they're not really overbore and they just have that intrinsically delicate balance that just seems to get the best from rifles. Okay, any chance you'll get a SIG crossing for review at some point? I'd be interested to see how you think it compares to the fix. Just picked up a Ruger Ranch 300 Blackout after seeing your reviewing it. It's funny, I was going through, as I said, I was going through pictures today, and I was looking at the Ruger Ranch 300 Blackout, and that was something like August last year. Time flies, doesn't it? Yeah, SIG Cross, I might get one. I've just had a Hauer the other week, and SIG are brought in by Howland Outdoors, just the same as, sorry, did I say Hauer or Sauer? I had a Hauer, that's Highland Outdoors. The Sig Sauer Cross is going to be Highland Outdoors as well. Yeah, I might get one. We shall see. There's been a bit of a delay with them. I think they had to have a bit of a fix on a sort of early initial design mix-up that they weren't too happy with, and they took back in for a change. But don't quote me on that one. Unfortunately, I've done a review on the fix, and I don't really see the point in it at all in any respect whatsoever. So watch the video on the fix if you want. It's on my channel. This is what you're looking at now. It really just doesn't have a point, because it's just it's a silly little bolt handle. It's a funny little bolt action rifle. It's not a straight pull. It's got a big carriage on it like a straight pull. It's not an AR. It's what is it? What isn't it? And the worst thing about it is it came with a muzzle brake on it. I think it's called a cherry bomb or something, which was, it's supposed to be part of a suppressor unit in the US market, but it wasn't so here. And it actually vents and adds recoil rather than subtracts recoil. And it was a very, very uncomfortable rifle to shoot. And I've shot a lot of different rifles. I'm not going to go, oh, 375 Holland and Holland, you must be a big girl if you can't shoot with those. I've shot plenty of them. Big gun. It kicks you hard. Not going to cry over it though. But I'm going to respect the fact it's a big gun, it kicks you hard. A 223 that did that, you'd be very disappointed by. You'd probably have to be shot by one to be hurt that much. But the 308 fix just kicked like a mule, because it had a tiny little recoil pad on it, and it was just a really snappy gun. So, sorry, fix, but what are you? Right, I'm going to have a little drink of water before I spill the whole glass. Yum, yum, yum. Let's have a look and see where we are. Yeah. Ruger Ranch 300 Blackout. I got very close to buying that Ruger Ranch off test, actually. It was a used gun, and they did offer me a reasonable price if I wanted to keep it. It was quite a nice gun, I liked it, but I had no specific need for it. But you know, it was one of those guns you think, I just kind of liked it. Right, not sure I understand that. Not sure I understand that. Sorry, Camille. Camille, again, sorry, don't understand that. I'd Google Translate, but I'm a bit short for time for doing that one just at the second. Right, Cowan, I think that is, Cowan Owen. Hi Chris, now we are out of the EU, will we get a better range of power? Power, or do you mean powder, I think, for reloading? The list seems to be getting smaller every time I look. I suppose we went in for, was it called Reach Compliant, or what was it called now? The compliant, where we lost all the sort of extreme powders from Hodgson a few years ago. There'll only ever be one Varget, and there's only ever been one H4350, but there are some very close matches snapping at its heels. I was never a Varget guy, but I used to go through a lot of H4350, and I've still got a few pounds left, and I'm not getting rid of them unnecessarily. I don't seem to have a problem. I use a lot of Itavori powder, you know, you've got ram shot powders, things like that. There's Reload Swiss, there's lots of other powders, and of course we all get a little bit stuck in the mud thinking that we'll be completely, you know, lost without these things. But we've got to learn to evolve, because although we think, oh, the EU's gone now, everything's going to be fantastic, well, it isn't. It isn't. It's not this big switch that says, oh, everything in the world was doom and gloom. The factors are still out there, and it's not just the EU who are making life difficult. There's plenty of laws everywhere that, you know, hoops everybody's got to jump through. And, you know, look at the powders that are available. Live for the now, because they'll probably change in 5 years anyway. Vitavori have got loads of great stuff, and that's coming in no problem at all. So It's what I concentrate on generally. Right, where do we get to now? How a mini action lightning 2 varmint in 223? Any thoughts? Sean Roberts. I think I talked about this a couple of months ago when I was doing. I used to do my live videos on YouTube, but YouTube seems to be changing their systems so regularly now that it's become a hobby in itself to try and work out how to use the stuff. You can't just use it as a tool and go and use it and then come away from it. You've got to be logging in, doing this, doing that, changing settings here, going to Business Suite, blah, blah, blah. So YouTube, I'm afraid, is gone for me now. Anybody who wants to stay in contact with me, sorry, Facebook's gone for now. YouTube is where I'm staying now. So, yes. YouTube, that's me. No Facebook. Right, how mini action lightning 2 varmint in 223? The mini action howler, is that the one they do in the 204 Ruger? Because I've wanted one of those for yonks. I've never had a 204 Ruger test gun and I really want one. Howler's pretty steady rifles actually. I was using one yesterday, 223. Very simple, very honest, not expensive, not the flashiest rifle in the world. Does it shoot well? Yes. Do you shoot plenty of foxes with it? Yes. Has it got a Picatinny rail for easy scope mounting? Yes. Has it got a decent trigger? Yeah, it's alright. Mag system works fine. You've got this one had a 4 plate on it. You're never going to drop that in the mud, are you? So the Howler is, you know, keep it simple, and it has, and it just works. So enjoy it. Right, Craig Broadway. What time are we on, by the way? Well, we're not doing well here. Not doing good. Not doing too bad. Quarter. Craig Broadway. Right. Hi, Chris. Just wanted to throw a question with you regards precision rifle bullet heads. Oh, they're not bullet heads. They're bullets. Bullets. For 6.5 Creedmoor out to 1 kilometre. I know this is subjective, but would like to hear your thoughts. Thanks. Right. Number one, Craig. Buy 1,000 of whatever you can get hold of, and at a later date, think about swapping them with someone else if they don't work in your rifle. Because the most annoying thing I ever found with bullets was you get a nice load worked up, you've got X amount of powder, X amount of primers. I can't get any primers at the minute. And a bullet, and you think, great, that's going to last me this barrel. Get a couple thousand rounds, you're never going to need to buy any more. But it's what you can get, how many you're going to use, and to what degree you're going to push your load development. I always used to reload, and I don't reload a huge amount now. I always used to reload to the extent where I had a reliable round I could work with. I didn't chase every last little experimentational session to for seating depth, going up in single kernel weights of powder, things like that. I just wasn't going to do it. If I could put a CCI BR2 or BR4 primer in it, X amount of Hodgdon or Viterbory powder, bullet, seat it to factory specification, have a go with it. What's it like? Do I need to change a great deal? Tweak the powder weight a bit, maybe tweak seating depth a bit, but I wasn't pushing it to the nth degree, and I would never use bullets that were particularly sensitive to seating depth, because that is something that will vary through the life of the rifle. So yes, you're going to have to accept that if you want to really seriously develop a load for precision rifle shooting, you're probably going to use at least 100 to 200 bullets doing that, depending on how experienced you are and whether you know how to pick up the key signs of what you need to do immediately, or whether it's part of the experimental learning process. And then you're going to hopefully have another 900 left to last you a season of shooting. So that's the thing. First thing has got to be, what's the longevity of the bullet going to be like, the lifespan of getting hold of them? What's the import cycle like? If there's one box in the shop, just don't buy them for a gun in a reloading situation where you're looking at a season of competition. You need consistency, and there's no point going from one batch to another batch or another brand to another brand, because you just got to do all your experimentation again. And for what you might gain in absolute ultimate accuracy and precision, you may well lose in time, stress, and actually getting out and going shooting, because I don't really care how accurate stuff is if you completely miss the wind or you forget to make your turret adjustments correctly, or you don't have enough time to really tune and get your ballistic curves sorted perfectly. Because going from a half MOA to a quarter MOA group on paper in perfect conditions is superb, but it isn't going to overcome mistakes you might make because you haven't been out and practiced shooting in the real world. So those are my thoughts on that one. And because it depends on your budget, because bullets vary a lot in cost. You can look at the A-tips, they look very nice, but they're quite keenly priced. Burgers, again, they're quite expensive. You go to the other end of it, look at Sierras, things like that. A lot more economical. Hornady's somewhere in the middle in things like the ELD M's and things like that. So you haven't got the issue anymore of expanding section 5s versus non-expanding like we used to have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But yeah, daft as it was, in the 338 I shot last week, I had two types of factory ammo. One was at ELD M, one was at ELD X. The ELD X just seemed to shoot that tiny little bit better, but they both shot well. But this is factory ammo. But when you're pumping rounds down at 1,000 metres, and one of them just thinks this one just seems to give you that little bit of just seems to shoot that little bit more consistently. You just develop a like for it, and you're just not going to change, are you? Right, what's your thoughts on Spartan bipods and adapters? Don't really know anything about them anymore. I don't know where they're made. They used to be made not a million miles from me actually, but they're not now, so I couldn't tell you. I saw one when I was down in Wales the other week, but I half thought about putting it. Andrew had one. I half thought about putting it on the 338, but it wouldn't fit, so we didn't, and that was that. Right. Ooh, we got one question left from Roy Head again. Any thoughts on the Lithgow 102? They don't seem to be that common here in the UK. The 102, now, I'm trying to remember the 101, the 102. Which one's the centerfire, which one's the rimfire? I've used them both. They work alright. I wouldn't say they were thrillingly exciting. The rimfire one with the rear locking bolt, I seem to remember you could close the bolt handle down before it was actually in battery. It wasn't unsafe, but it was a bit annoying if you were cycling them fast or anything like that. But they might have changed that now, because it must be at least 5-6 years since I've had one. The 102, off the top of my head, I think that's the centerfire. If you want, I'll have a little look and have a look through my notes and see which was which, but I can't remember off the top of my head, and it's a bit rude standing at my laptop. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of photos here. My reference library. Lithgow isn't popping up quickly at the start. And I'll tell you why it's not, because I've not got my hard drive plugged into it, so there we go, I can't tell you. If you want to come back and tell me which is which, I'll remember better then. Right. Yeah, somebody wants me to show them an AK-47. We can't have them here in full auto. We can get straight pull ones, and I have used one. But although they're quite fun to shoot, they are actually a bit of a dog. But they're beautifully robust. Beautifully robust. So there you go. Right, where did you get the stock on your 4.52? That stock is a Boyd stock. I've had that for, I must have had that for 12 or 13 years. I bought it from Boyd before anybody bothered importing them into the UK, and just imported it. I think it was about $80, $90 or something. It came through. It's got a slightly different inlet on it, so there are some screw holes in the wrong place, but in the 4.52 days there were some differences between Americans and varmints and non-Americans and this, that and the other in terms of the action models. So I can't, it's got a screw somewhere here or a screw hole somewhere there that hasn't got a screw in it, but other than that it's fine. It's a nice looking thing actually. It shot well yesterday. I haven't shot it for a while. It's a great little hunting stock. It's quite a short length to pull, but again, if you want it for a truck buzzing around the farm or whatever, it's great because you don't want it too big, too long, or it's nice to be compact. Right. Okay, well there's some people there we're just going to completely ignore. 102 is the centerfire. Right, Roy Head. I've had 102s in sporting and in the more tactical format. The sporting one I had maybe 2-3 years ago. The chassis format tactical one was sometime spring, summer last year I think it was. I think I did a review for it in Rifle Shooter. It had a few hiccups with the feed off the mag system, if I remember rightly. It was accurate enough, shot well enough. Wasn't particularly inspiring to me. Wouldn't be my choice, but it wasn't a bad gun. If you like it, you like it. Right. Hi Chris, I'm looking for a good bipod for my 457 for rabbiting. Any recommendations? Who's this? Do I recognise this person's picture on here? Oh, no, it's not. It's another Rob. I quite like the Magpul bipod these days. I've always been a big Harris fan, and you'll see loads of Harris bipods on my guns. Certainly for the heavier, for the varmint sort of weight rifles. Okay, these days on the really big stuff, I'd have liked to have put a wide leg tier 1 or something like that on the 338 Ruger, but I couldn't get one in time. For a sporting rifle, for lightweight, I really like the Magpul ones. You can get them in Picatinny fit, stud fit, or M-Lock fit. I can't tell you how much exactly there are. I think they may be 110, 120 pounds. I couldn't tell you. Speak to your dealer. Edgar Brothers import them. And they're just really nice bipods because as well as having sort of similar functionality, you've got pan tilt and things like that, leg extensions. When they fold up against your back, they're not sort of angular and a bit sort of bumpy and you know, uncomfortable like a Harris can be. There's Harris on these next to me, but it's not to say Harris is bad, it's just that things have moved on a little bit. And for a sporting rifle, both my Mauser M18 and M12 have both got the Magpuls on them now, and I just really like them. I think they're a teeny little bit quieter to use. They're not as cold and as clangy on the springs sometimes if you know, make a clunk folding one away or something like that. I just like them. I think they're really good. That would be my choice. Right, Rustler Titan 6 any good? I half remember those. I've never reviewed one. It's a while since they've been around. Was that something that Ruag used to import? I think they may have appeared and died. I'm not sure. I certainly haven't seen one any time recently. Right, Mick Dand, S20, can you retrofit a set trigger? I don't see why not, because it'll just bolt on if you can get one from GMK or through GMK from the factory. Seiko stuff is, yeah, it's bolt on, bolt off kit, but it depends on whether they'll supply one or you can supply one. I believe the rifle is available with one from the factory, which implies they have to make them, but whether you can get them separately is a different matter. Roy Head, cheers, no worries Roy. Paul 5T, what make is the cheek riser in the background? Can you recommend a good one? Which one? The one here, this cheek riser, or that cheek riser on the cream rifle? The one on the cream rifle, cream grey sort of colour, the 457, that's part of the rifle stock. That's what comes with it. That one is a very old eBay special of some description. Nothing fancy. It's got a big bag on the side, put batteries for night vision, that kind of stuff in, 2 and spare mag, that sort of stuff. It's nothing particularly Gucci, it's just reasonably practical. And yeah, I will put that down as an eBay special of years gone by. I have actually got some Hornady ones. I think they're in the back of my truck though at the moment. Right. Oh dear, right. Emil, what's your most expensive rifle? My own most expensive rifle. Well, they're all really old now, so they're probably worth nothing. I can't even think of which one cost the most when I bought it. I haven't really bought a serious rifle for 12 or 13 years. I've had a few sort of rebarreling jobs done, and I've done a lot of stuff where I've rebuilt guns, new stocks, done bedding, bottom metal, things like that. Used sporting rifles you can pick up really quite cheaply, and if you know what you're looking for, you can buy an awful lot of gun for £600 or £700, and you can buy, you know, you can buy some really good kit for 200 or 300 if you want it, just for real hunting and not for going, oh, I shot a 1/4-inch group with 50 million shots and Dave saw it happen and all this lot. You know, if you want a hunting rifle, you don't need to spend a huge fortune I've never really owned a super expensive rifle. I suppose the most expensive rifles I've owned, probably my first ever rifle was a Seiko 75 22-250, and I think even that, which was quite a lot of years ago, I think that was probably a bit over £1,000 back then. Optics would have been a different matter. I've bought and sold so many optics of crazy value, far beyond rifles. If you asked me how many rifles I've ever bought more than £1,000, I'd say maybe 3. If you said optics, I'd say I've not got enough fingers and toes for that one. But you know, I've bought and sold and used and learned about them and this, that, and the other. So, right. The most expensive test rifle I've ever had is actually the very, very first one I ever had, which was a Brugger and Tommet 308 tactical rifle, and that was actually the first rifle I ever shot a straight 50 on my Queens with as well when it was on review, and it was the very first gun I ever had as an RFD, which is 10 years ago now. And I think back then that was about £10,000. Since that time, not so long ago, last year, I had a Blaser K95 carbon. It is one of the nicest rifles I've ever used. I really, really liked it. It was just so delicate, yet robust, yet functional, yet elegant. And oh yeah, it was just a great, great gun. I think retail, those are about £8,000, but I had the scope and everything from Blaser, and I think it topped up to about 11 or 12 grand by the time you put it all together with the titanium mod and all that kind of thing. But you know, I shot it and I thought, yeah, I really like this. I wonder how much it is. So I asked them how much it is. They said how much it was, and it was about twice as much as I thought it was going to be. I was never in a situation I was going to be buying the thing because it was a review rifle. But I sent it back really quickly after that. Took all my measurements, all my details, had all the video footage done. I was like, oh god, it's so expensive. I don't really want it around though because, you never. I was never going to own it, so what's the point of keeping it? Because I probably wouldn't have even used it even if I had have kept it or could have afforded it. So I'm very practical in that respect. If I'm not going to use a gun, I've no desire to keep hold of it because more keep coming along. And let's face it, it's my job. I enjoy shooting, but I don't, chase it 24 hours a day. I've got to get a bit of a rest and away from it. I was just saying to my better half, my one dream in life at the moment is to be sat on a Greek beach eating a donut, drinking an Alpha beer. And that's not going to cost as much as a Blaser. Right, okay, the most expensive rifle. Right, how do you rate the HAL 1500 as barrel action heavy barrel for a PRS build, restricted by the factory category 1500 capacity for a cap for a rifle? I think you'll do all right. I did a review. I think it's in publication now. It's in Rifle Shooter's April edition, which goes on sale. If it hasn't already, it will be within the next few days. And that's got a Hauer 1500 in the MDT ACC chassis, which I don't think is. I think it's a little bit above the 1500 cap, but I've got a feeling Ryan told me that the Oryx chassis puts it below the 1500 cap. But Highland Outdoors have a great website which allows you to build and spec your rifle as you want it. So have a look, because crazy as it sounds, that the day it was snowing, was it 5-6 weeks ago, and it was snowing like crazy, and I was at the range with the M18 65 Creedmoor and the HAL 1500 65 Creedmoor, shooting them both exactly the same conditions, same temperature, same distance, same ammo selection, everything. And I actually had to do proper target measurements on the electronic app to give me a winner between the two of them. One of them I preferred shooting the Mauser because the stock just suited my needs, requirements and taste better. It's not to say the HAL wasn't just as good on paper though, and for the PRS shooter I could certainly see how they would have preferred the ACC over the Oryx chassis. So it's horses for courses, but I don't think you'll go far wrong with one, to be honest. So check out Highland's website because they've got a good price calculator, and the prices on there are the prices that you'll pay. So you're not really sort of second guessing and having to ring round 50 dealers to get the best quote. Right, but your dealer will be the one that gets it for you. Whether they squeeze a bit or not, who knows? Right, Thomas combined A, Sith there, something I'm not sure. Right, many people I know are telling me to get something like Zeiss V6 2.5 to 12 ASV for my first scope, but I'm not sure I want to spend that much on my first scope. Are there any good budget alternatives? Well, if you want a budget alternative to a V6 2.5 to 12, get a V4 3 to what's that? Is that 3 to 12? No, get the V4 4 to 16. I've actually got one at the moment, and I think it's a really nice scope. It's got one of the great things about it is it's not got silly long eye relief. It's only got 90, it's about 90mm eye relief, but it's also got a very broad parallax range, and it will go down to 10 meters on parallax. So you're never going to have any problems on any type of rifle you're going to use it on. Okay, it's not quite as nice as the V6. It's not got the 6x erector tube. It's got a 4x erector tube, but realistically, are you going to be able to tell in the field the difference between a 2.5 and a 3 versus a 15 or a 16? You're probably not really going to be crying over it, are you? Or a 2.5 to 12, sorry. Yeah, I think the V4 is a really nice scope actually. Now, the only thing is it's only available in minutes of angle, so I don't think there's a milliradian option, which would probably sway me because I prefer milliradians, only because it's what I'm used to. And if you've not got, I tried to, any scope I've got for a long time, I would always choose milliradians just because it fits in with my whole data book. There's nothing wrong with minutes at all. So yeah, look at the V4. Oh, that was quite an easy question actually, because if you V6 is a bit too expensive, V4. Right, Craig Broadway. Also, any recommendations for a tactical scope? Again, under 1500 retail. I'm going to struggle here a little bit because I often don't get what I would call the real world street price. I have to work in recommended retail price and official dealer price plus official dealer margin, VAT, etc, etc. So although I always absolutely quote recommended retail price, which is given to me by the distributor or the or manufacturer, or whichever it is, and it can often lead me quite a long way astray, and sadly I think a lot of the time they lose out because of it, because I will recommend something that I know real world price for versus something I know, well, that's not the price you're going to pay in a shop, but no one can tell me, so I'm going to have to tell you it's £3,000 for this scope, sir, even though your dealer might do it for 2,200. That's the tricky bit of my job. 1500 retail, tactical scopes. 6 hour have got quite a good range. I've generally never found one disappointing to use. It's one of the things they're quite into, and you know, Ryan that works for Highland Outdoors who imports 6 hour, he's very much into all the PRS world, and he's using the 6 hour gear, and they've got quite a good sort of stepped scale of quality levels and various amounts of Gucci to do with them. So, but yeah, it's, if someone said here's a 6 hour scope, I think 6 hour, yeah. I don't think I've ever had a disappointing one of those, and there's so many scopes I've had, so many scopes I've used, I tend to remember scope X at level Y in range Z, and I think, yeah, that manufacturer, they didn't really thrill me with that scope, so I'm wondering if they're not really comparative price for price. Other scopes for PRS, 1500 for 1500 maximum. I could tell you a lot that are below 1,000, but if you want to be pushing to a 1500 maximum, the only one that springs off the top of my head, you go in milliradians again, because if you are, that seems to be the vogue in that area, what I would use. Yeah, maybe look at the 6 hour stuff. Have a look. Right, I'm going to have another drink, I'm getting a little bit hoarse. I'm hoping to sleep beyond 3:30 AM tomorrow. First Rimfire, CZ455 or 457? 457. Why go for the old model? 455's got some great stock options, and it'll change the 457 and 455 barrels are interchangeable. So any I think they call them mini kits that you can get with an extra barrel, extra magazine. Of course, you've got subject to variations in the UK. They're all intercompatible. So yeah, go 457 because it's a newer action. The action's, it's got a much more modern air to it. The 455 still has sort of echoes of the 452, and the 455 trigger is a big step. Sorry, the 457 trigger has been a step forward as well. The bolt operation's nicer, the safety catch is nicer. There's a bit of a price difference, but you know, I think if you bought a 455, you might regret not getting a 457. So, any thoughts on the Anschutz 1761 22LR? I've probably had one. It probably shot well. It's probably Anschutz price. It's probably no better than a CZ or a ticker. If you like Anschutz, it's very, very nice. I've had a few Anschutz that they weren't striking the firing pin. The firing pin wasn't striking hard, and I was getting a few soft strikes with them. Not anything like as bad as the Bergara was, but that's one of the, you know, I've got to go on what I can remember, and I do remember that. Last year, or maybe even the year before, the 1761 off the top of my head, because Anschutz are quite sort of nondescript nomenclature to them. 1761, I think I had two of them simultaneously because two were sent to me. I had the Sporter stock and the Thumbhole stock. They were nice guns. It wasn't those that had the soft strike issue. It was the centerfire Anschutz that had the soft strike issue. They were fine. They were very good. But are they, you know, 60%, 50% better than the equivalent rifles from other manufacturers? Okay, maybe aren't quite as nicely finished. Don't have the walnut stocks, this, that, and the other. But as a hunting tool, do you want a walnut stock? Because I must admit, I've got an FACA rifle at the minute with a walnut stock, which is beautiful to use, but I don't like taking it out because it's going to get battered. It is going to get bashed up, and I'm just never really going to be super keen on walnut for a workhorse rifle like that. And I think with the Anschutz, you're generally looking at walnut. So yeah, I suppose that's the end of that one. So, something, I don't speak English. Un saluto. So I'm going to think maybe you're saying, well done, great video, nice to see you. Well, thank you very much to Fulvio Bertotti. Bertotti, I think that's going to be Bertotti. Fulvio Bertotti, that's Italian probably, I would have thought. Jonathan Price, hi Chris, Ticker T1X in Oryx chassis, what are your thoughts? I don't think you'll regret that, Jonathan Price. I don't think you'll regret it. If you want a chassis rifle, I find them a bit heavy myself, and if you are hunting with them, they're always cold, but there we go. I'm going to take my foot off that squeaky board now. Right. Stephen Orr. Stephen Orr, one of my regular viewers. Hi Chris, with a new rifle, do you believe in a braking procedure or is it a waste of time? I don't think it's a waste of time, but you'll hear 101 different ways of doing it, and I'll give you way number 102. So I'll tell you what works for me, but it won't be the same as everybody else agrees with, and you'll get 50 people shout at you for doing it wrong. So I'll tell you briefly how I do it. Shoot some rounds through it, see what comes out the barrel. If it's got loads of copper coming out of it or it's really mucky, this, that and the other, I play it by ear because I haven't got the amount of time or ammunition or anything necessary to do an absolutely fastidious shoot one, clean one, shoot one, clean one, shoot three, clean one, shoot four, clean one, etc. I'm never going to do that because I just haven't got the time. And here's the fact, okay? When Guy X goes to his gun shop, gets his first 243 rifle, buys one box of 20 rounds of ammo, does he want to do that with it? Or is he basically just going to take it, shoot it, never clean it, maybe buy a bore snake? I'm not going to knock him for it. It wouldn't be my way of doing it. But a lot of people do that. You know, do you own a cleaning rod? No. Do you own a cleaning? No. Do you own a cleaning salt? No. Spray something in it, put a bore snake through it. That's what they do. So I kind of review a rifle in, let's be honest, it might sound a little bit lazy, but I believe most of the rifles I review are sporting rifles, and most of them have been shot in and used long before I've had them. I very rarely get a brand new rifle. That Ruger 338 was brand new, and Andy Norris said to me, he goes, look after it, it's brand new. It's alright, it came clean, it just got a bit muddy the first day because I splashed in a big puddle next to it. But it was only dirty water. Perfectly alright now, Andy. So yeah, I believe in testing hard because I haven't got them long enough to baby them. I don't brutalise them, but I'm not soft on them because so many buyers, they want, you know, they want round 6 on target and they want round 7 to take the first deer. They're not going to do the shoot one, clean one. Okay, there are some people who will, but I'm testing for every man and I'm giving the gun a hard life. What's the man going to get from this rifle that can afford 1-2 boxes of ammunition after he spent £1,000 on a gun, £1,000 on a scope? Not everybody wants to shoot loads of practice rounds. What are your thoughts on Optisan EVX scopes? Cheers. Never heard of them. Sorry, Rob. Never heard of them. First thermal spotter without selling a lung to pay for it. From personal experience, I'm very happy with the Hick Lynx 19. I think that's a great way into thermal. It's not the cheapest one, but I think it's got. I think they're about £1,300 retail ish. Don't quote me on that. The Falcon 35 was up at about 1,700–1,800. It is a little bit nicer, but it's significantly larger. And the thing I really like about the 19 is it is just palm sized and it's always in your pocket, it's in out. Do you want to be shooting everything at 500–600 meters? Do you want to detect it and then hunt for it? Well, I'm the latter. I want to detect it then hunt for it. I'm not, you know, I can't recognize a lot of things at super long distance, and until they come in closer you're not going to see them clearly enough anyway to get really detailed recognition. But the longer you watch stuff for, the more you'll pick up the traits, and that's why I just think the 19, it's just there in your hand. You walk around and it's just there. It's just it's so intuitive as to the way it just comes to your face. And although I love the accolades, the pulsars, they're a big boxy thing hanging on your neck, and you know, especially if you're a daytime user who's stalking this, that, and the other, you probably got your binoculars, maybe binocular rangefinders. You don't want the pulsar, the big accolade, dumped on top. So that's an example of you know, probably one of the best thermals versus one of the most economical and small ergonomic compact thermals. So have a think about exactly what you want it for. Do you want it to detect heat sources and then go hunting, or do you want it to point and shoot at everything? I think one is one end, one is the other. That's a pretty basic way of putting it, but somewhere between those two extents, most people will find their happy place. Right, well, I think Mike 1960, that pretty much rounds it up for tonight, because my good lady Limbo said to me, she said, if nobody turns up, come inside and go to bed, because, like I said, I didn't sleep much last night. She cares for me, strange woman. So there we go. Thank you all for coming along. Thank you for some great questions tonight. It was nice to see a variety, some new names, some new languages. I apologise for my poor linguistic skills. Maybe a soupçon of Italian I was capable of, but that was about that. So thanks very much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please click the notification bell, and thank you, The Real 602. Thanks, Chris, good show. Right, thanks for watching. Bye for now. And now, watch me mumble round there and come and turn that off. Toodle pip.